Hello and welcome to the Two Robbies Podcast, your destination for in-depth discussion and analysis of the Premier League. I'm Robbie Mustoe, he's Robbie Earle, and here are today's topics. Liverpool survive a wild trip to Spurs in a game that saw 2 red cards, goals from Isak Ekitike and left Thomas Frank fuming. The title race narrows as Arsenal find themselves top of the table at Christmas after a 1-0 win at Everton and are closely followed by wins from Manchester City and Aston Villa. And Newcastle's dominant first half is not enough to hold off Chelsea in an entertaining 2-2 draw at St James's Park. That's what we have coming up in today's episode. But wait just a second, Mr. Earle. What do I spy on your right? What is that beautiful looking piece of hardware?
Well, do you know the phrase "friends in high places"? When you've got friends in high places, my friend, you get the Premier League trophy, courtesy of Harry and Mick, who are the trophy ambassadors, who've been in New York with the trophy this weekend. They came down to the studios and really very grateful that they were allowing us to have the trophy in the podcast for the first 5 minutes of the podcast. They'll come and take the trophy and the plinth away in the next sort of 5 minutes. So if you see some guys doing that, but just what a brilliant...
The closest you've ever got, my friend, isn't it?
It is the closest I've ever got, but it's a year with Arsenal, with Man City, and now I'm going to say Aston Villa, mate, chasing this trophy next May. You know, that's what colour ribbons are going to be on next May. So let's get to the action, mate. Let's we're going to start with Tottenham Hotspur versus Liverpool, one of the blue chip games. I think this was the game that's had the most goals in Premier League history between two teams. It was a bit cagey, certainly in the first half, 0-0, and then the goals came courtesy of Isak, who came on as a second half sub, Ekitike getting the goals for Liverpool, Richarlison getting a reply for Tottenham, who went down to 9 men in this game, not the first time that's happened. I mean, so much going on, Rob. Where do you want to start with Tottenham, Liverpool? Should we talk Liverpool and a win and, getting it back to a little bit more of the form we expected?
Yeah, we're starting to get used to this kind of diamond setup now for Arne Slot. I think after the goals that were getting conceded that we talked about, he made effective changes, Rob, really effective changes. We know that Gakpo's out right now. Mo Salah was left out the side. Now, of course, he's away at AFCON. But that diamond in midfield with 4 central midfield players naturally is going to give the defence more protection. I think naturally it allows them to dominate possession with lots of... looked at the game, Rob. It's kind of tiki-taka football a little bit at the moment for Arne Slot's Liverpool, and that's he kind of likes it slower and more precise football. Not always curating the most, I got to say. It wasn't a game where they created a ton of opportunities, but I'm kind of liking how he addressed a pretty serious issue early season and wow, we're conceding goals. Let's try again. Oh, more conceded and said, enough's enough, which is what I think we talked about on the podcast, Rob, and he addressed it. He's toned it all down. It's got back to not a clean sheet in this game, but much less opportunities conceded. And I think it's the way to go. And I think you're going to see from now, there's moments in this match where they look pretty slick and controlled the game through their possession. But I think that's the way to do it. You shut up shop a little bit, you tighten things down, and you slowly expand and go again. I think we're in the middle of it right now, and I think it's good work from Arne Slot.
Yeah, it was interesting, Rob, watching the game, and we had a little breakdown, and there was probably 3, 4, 5 instances where when the ball turned over, how quickly and how hard the Liverpool players got back towards their defence and got the shape set up, mate. It was a bit like, okay, if we lose possession, we're not going to be as easy to play through. We're not going to be as porous as we saw early in the season. I thought it was interesting the Viet's position, who sometimes sits quite close to the striker, but then drops into the left side and comes into the middle of the pitch to kind of gave them, at times they had 5 men in that key area of the pitch, which just dominated the possession from Tottenham.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen other teams do that, Rob. Of course, that's what Man City are doing right now. Yeah. It's kind of similar. When you see the teams have control of it and they're building up and they're moving forward, they kind of look similar where they are. The fullbacks are going to provide the width. I think it suits Milos Kerkez better to have the license, Rob, to get forward down the flank a little bit when they play in a different way with wingers, which are not right now at Liverpool. I think the manager wants him to be a little less attack-minded, but right now I think he's enjoying it. And I think the team are enjoying that extra possession in the middle of the park. So, we're used to seeing more chances and goal scorers from the wingers, Gakpo and Diaz and Salah and other players in the past. It's a little different now.
Yeah.
He is playing with the two up front. And one of those guys is Hugo Ekitike, Rob. And we're getting evidence every single week, my friend, that this is a special player. Yeah. And I think the headed goal that he scored, it just completes a sort of type of goal that this guy is scoring. He can score all types of goals, from tap-ins to sliding kind of attempts in the 6-yard box, to volleys around the edge of the box, to getting up, leaping up very high over an excellent defender and finding a cute header into the top corner. So Hugo Ekitike is becoming a story to me. I think he's becoming undroppable. Maybe the manager's going to appreciate that and will play with two up front with a diamond in midfield. That looks, at the moment, Rob, the way to go. Do you feel the same? I mean, Isak, of course, came in and scored as well, but Ekitike is quite the story. It's one of the stories of the season in the whole league for me.
Absolutely, and again, shadowed by the Isak signing and the Mo Salah sort of fallout. I don't think he's got the true respect that he probably should have in terms of a young footballer who's coming to a new league. He's still 23 years of age, Rob. There's still plenty more to come from this young man. But yeah, he looks like he's got a bit of everything. He closes down particularly well. He works hard out of possession. He isn't one of them who switches off. So yeah, totally agree. And the structure of Liverpool now looks a lot more solid. People look a little bit more focused on the Konate and Van Dijk particularly. Looking a bit more like the pair we saw last season. I suppose a bittersweet situation for Liverpool just in picking up the storylines there, Rob. But Isak comes on, scores a really nice goal, actually. Wirtz with the assist. Yeah. And then we're hearing today that there could become some kind of serious lower leg injury that they're worried about. Obviously, we're not going to speculate, and the medical people are still obviously investigating that. But doesn't sound great, Rob, with the noise that's coming out of Anfield.
No, and I don't know. He just seems to pick up stuff, Rob, doesn't he? And it was a nasty follow-through challenge from Mickey van der Ven. It looked pretty nasty, Rob. It looked like his leg got caught in between with the weight of the defending player. Yeah. We'll see. I think we for all his brilliance, Alexander Isak, he's not one of the strongest and most durable players in the league. But we will see. That looked a heavy challenge. I thought the ball was really good from Florian Wirtz, Rob.
And weight on it.
I think I know he's been criticised or maybe questioned a little bit about how he's going to adjust to this league. He's found it difficult with the numbers, but he's still on the eye test. He still looks really comfy, silky, progressive, great energy. Yeah, he gives it away sometimes you wouldn't expect him to, but he runs back to get it back again. Maybe this system gives him a little bit more license if he's coming out of the front too to come into midfield, as you said. So I think he's a slow burner, and I think he might take a little bit more time, but I think the quality in his feet and his intelligence in his head, I think he'll find a way to become a really important player for Liverpool, Rob. Again, it might not even be this season, but there's enough that I see that I feel like he's going to be a success at the club. The other side of that, Rob, and I'll ask you, the other side of that would be, but is he can he handle the physicality, the intensity? That's what he struggled with. Yeah. Do you think that's going to hold him back?
I don't, because I think he's got enough ability. I think when Liverpool's structure it gets more settled, they have more possession. We've seen players of that build. David Silva would be a great example of somebody who wasn't a huge, powerful man, but the technique and the ability and the football IQ, Rob, gets you into such good spaces. So I worry less about that, and I think a bit like you, I think Wirtz is starting to show signs of coming to terms with what the league's about. I think we should move it to Spurs, Rob, because there's a few storylines there. And let's go to, we talked before the game yesterday about, Florian Wirtz for Liverpool, Xavi Simons, maybe similar types of players coming into a league, wanting to play in that number 10-ish role where you can, get on the ball and make things happen. It didn't happen for Xavi Simons. How did you see the red card that was given to him? Any kind of qualms with that?
Not really. I mean, when I first saw it, Rob, I thought, well, he's not got total solid contact, but I think when you see the way that he stretched, I think, who was it, one of our guys in commentary? Was it Lee or Graham? I think it was Graham Mustoe that sort of correctly said, look at his stride path. That's not because my first thought was, he's just got clumsy there. But it wasn't in his stride path. He kind of reached out, and it was nasty. The studs are on the back of the Achilles. It does endanger the safety of the player. So I get it. And I think what we've seen from Xavi Simons, Rob, and we've covered every game pretty much. It's like, I think we've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. Yeah. This was an ugly situation, an ugly moment where didn't need to do it. We've seen plenty of bad play from him early on, but we've seen
national
good stuff
teammate
too.
as well, wasn't it? Which makes it even more of a change.
I know. Yeah, so I think, instead of making quick kind of assumptions about players, I think we've learned now that it's like, this is going to be one, there's going to be some bad, there's going to be some good, there's going to be some indifferent.
Yeah.
The breakout couple of games he had, Rob, where he scored those goals, it's like, there it is. Yeah. There's the bit that they wanted and other clubs wanted as well. So I think, like others, maybe like Florian Wirtz, I think you're going to get a bit of this. And some weeks we're going to say that was great. Yeah. And other weeks we're going to say that's not so good. The key thing is over a period of time, over 10 games or 20 games or a season, consistency, you got to have some numbers for us to make a summary at the end of the season and say, he's on the right path, he's going to be a star, or this inconsistency is too much of the not great stuff and not enough of the good stuff.
There was one part of the game, Rob, that didn't get as much traction as I thought yesterday. There was a lot going on. Christian Romero and the captain, second yellow card, again, loss of emotional control in a big game in a heated situation where he just goes around causing chaos and tackling and losing his head. And remember last week we had this sort of laugh about which pair would you take? The Van Dijk and Canate, and we talked about Romero and Van der Ven, and Van der Ven's great athleticism and Romero's fire, but he's got to control it, Rob. We're getting to the point where he's becoming a bit of a liability, this guy, and I think Thomas Frank has to be careful if he continues to kind of sidle up to him and rather than come down strong. I think it's a problem that could continue.
I think what we know about Thomas Frank is that of his best attributes is man managing, isn't it? This is obviously a man managing situation, but it's a different. I should imagine Christian Romero is a difficult guy to try and get into his head a little bit. He's so aggressive. He's so determined. He's so strong.
Which in one part can be a strength, Rob, if it's manufactured the right way and it's kept under the right wraps.
Yeah, but it's too often. Rob, he's the captain of the club, mate. Yeah. I don't think he's a captain type. I think a captain would be the one that go over him and get in his face a little bit and say, "Calm down, will you?" and push him away. He's a captain. I just don't think he's a captain. Mickey van der Ven would be better for that, in my opinion. He's calmer, brilliant player. But that's the captain, and it's a kick out. It's petulant. Every time we saw him in the flesh, Rob, was that a couple of years ago now when we saw him
play?
We
went to the game, didn't we? Yeah.
And we were on the sideline, and one of our take was this crikey. Every time it's a noise. Every time he went to challenge somebody, it was so powerful. And you got to control yourself. I think there's a raging angry defender in there that wants to put his physicality on every player he can with the strikers, and he bangs in there. And it's not the right way to be consistent and to help your team the best way.
Just in terms of Thomas Frank, because I think it's a really interesting point in his man management. We've been in his company a little bit, got to know him a bit. We've spoke to players and staff who've been around him, and he's a very kind of level guy, very intelligent man, a great communicator. Could you see frustration with him? Might this be a very different type of challenge? I can't think of anyone in that Brentford setup, Rob, who would have been this, who's a star player, who's one of your big players, who's a captain, who's got that responsibility, who's got a bit of an ego. So you've got to kind of keep him on side, but also let him know that these rules that he's got to abide by. And how tough is that?
It's such a good point, Rob, because this is so different. The club is so different. The players that make up the club are so different. Brentford, for the most part, have been bought from lower leagues or different countries. Here's a Premier League opportunity. They're loving it. They're here to please the manager.
Everything what the manager says.
The team spirit, I'm sure, is really good. Similar bunch of players. This is different. You're getting. This is a world champion. You're getting different types of egos, personalities that want to be stars. And it's so different. And I think that it will be the critical factor, I think, with Thomas Frank, Rob, at the club, is how he can adapt to that, handle that, get the best out of his star players and get him on a consistent run. This is another defeat at home. You know, we know about the situation with some of the players that are out. He's gone with some young players. Still not seeing a consistency, though. To be fair, they kept going, mate, and they rattled Liverpool a little bit at the end, even with nine men. I think that's the only doubt. Liverpool's like, come on, with two men up in the last kind of 5 or 10 minutes, it looked like they were. Well, they gave up chances. The goalkeeper's making saves, so that's the only side of it from Liverpool that wasn't great. But just to summarise, mate, I just think Slot is calmed it all down a little bit, and he's growing again in a different way with not wingers and not Mo Salah, and I think that's commendable. They're not, obviously where they want to be right now. I think actually they're up to 5th in the Premier League, Rob, and I think there's slow improvement from what we've seen in the first few weeks.
Yeah. Okay, mate, we're going to condense this podcast because obviously it's ahead of Christmas and everybody's running around and we've got staff who are with us. So we're going to talk about the title race, but we're going to talk it across the 3 teams that are in there, we would say, now, if we include Aston Villa, Manchester City and Arsenal. Let's start with Arsenal, Rob, because they kicked off at the Hill Dickinson at Everton on the Saturday night when day of many games. Again, it wasn't classic Arsenal. It needed a penalty kick after a strange handball by Jacob Brown. Not understand what he's doing with his hands there, Rob. Pretty easy decision to give. Gyökeres smashes it home, gets his first goal in since November. Arsenal go 1-0 up. With the possession, I think then, Rob, they'll go on and make this comfortable. It wasn't as comfortable as I thought, and I've got to be honest, I thought in the game, Everton were lucky not to get a penalty kick.
Yeah, I totally agree, Rob. And I saw the game, I saw your comments and stuff. I think I agree with you with the first one, but the second one, the Saliba one, I mean, we've seen that many times given. Many times given. And probably for a little bit less force in the contact than that. So I immediately thought, there it is. They're going to, they're going to concede a goal here. I was really surprised that was not given. I guess they said it wasn't significant impact.
Impact.
And even though sometimes it feels harsh when the player goes to clear the ball and somebody comes in from behind and gets his foot in between and you catch it. So they were lucky right there. Arsenal are not playing well.
No.
They're not playing well.
The eye test,
right
I think we talked about, Robbie. You mentioned and you said they're the best team in the league because the eye test is telling me the balance of the team. If we're talking the eye test now, they're not the best team in the league.
They're not. And you think about the Wolves, they needed an own goal right at the end.
Two own goals.
Two own goals, but the late one, obviously got the 3 points and the jubilation. The 1-0 hanging on a little bit, not scoring the second is where they were last year, dropping points. They won it, of course. And, the other side of the coin is defensively, they're so strong, even though it could have been a penalty, that it's really, really helping them. I still think the number 9 it's not great. The top goal scorer, I think, is Victor Gyökeres. He's on penalties. He's got 5 Premier League goals. I know he's had his injury issues. I still, Arsenal wanted a guy, Rob, to be a little poacher and score goals and bring in.
He's done it 2 goals yesterday, wins you the game and gets you comfortable. That's what they bought. That's what I think they thought they were buying.
Yeah, I mean, and I think
are they creating as much, Rob? Are they creating as much?
No,
those players who are in the team to do that.
Yeah, I think there's a little theme going on, Rob. I think they're the best sides right now, and it really is about loads of possession control in midfield. I just talked about it with Liverpool. We know that Man City are going to bring that way. Man City got somebody up front who it makes a difference. But Arsenal are a little like this as well. They want the possession control, and I love that. But they need to score more than the 1 goal unless it's to avoid the nervy situations. And every player in midfield coming in there, like we talked about, it does mean less players in the final line to create and score your goals. And I think Arsenal now, again, suffering from that. I know they spread the goals around. There's a bunch of players that have got 4 Premier League goals, and that's good. Listen, as long as they're winning games, it's okay. Just when you see the tight score lines, the 1-0s, and that's when, draws are like losses to the big teams at the very top, and they didn't do it. But the way they're playing, they've got to get better. And that's the 3 things I think from this game, Rob, was a lucky situation on Saliba, the fact that the team aren't playing well, but they're getting the results, and the number 9, the goals. Still, those 3 things are the standouts in this game. And Everton, they struggled a little bit. I think after losing the first goal, I think their confidence was down a little bit before the first goal went in. I thought they played
played
pretty
decent,
well.
didn't they? Yeah, they were difficult to play against.
Yeah.
Let's go to Man City, because they've got a number 9 who doesn't find it difficult to get goals. He's got 19 Premier League goals, mate. That's as many as West Ham have as a team.
Yeah.
The numbers are ridiculous. He missed a good chance with a header. They've got a lot of players, Rob, playing a good level of football. They're still not as defensively sound as we've known some of these title-winning teams. They still give up a few chances and a few opportunities in possession. But they're more clinical at the top end of the pitch, Rob, and so that gives them a bit more of a buffer.
Yeah, they're silky. They're the silkiest team right now. They're the silkiest team. They look like curating. They look like scoring goals when they go forward. There's goals from different parts of the side. Midfield players from Arsenal, you might argue, where's my big goal scorer? Yeah. We know there's creators, and I know Aberche Eze got that amazing game in the derby and gets the 3 goals. Odegaard doesn't get enough. Declan Rice doesn't get enough. Tijani Reinders, Rob, started off his career brilliantly well. Found it a little bit difficult. Back in the side, scored a goal, coming again. Yeah. Ryan Shirky, another one of those silky little players, starting to produce goal-scoring situations, goals and assists. Again, he's so creative in that tight player environment going forward. So that's where they have the advantage. Yeah. Now, on the other side of it, they look more vulnerable than others. But I think I said weeks ago, if their football is as crisp and as accurate and as reliable as it can be, they won't give up many chances because they have the ball all the time. Yeah. It's when their football's not good, those transitions, that they look like conceding, and they've done it many times. So they are a big threat to Arsenal. Yeah. They just are. The way that they're playing, the eye test, and if they can be tighter, meaning their football's even more crisp and accurate and less transitions, they look like they're winning every game. This is West Ham United at home. We're not going to get carried away, but the attack, the midfield control, the players that are seemingly getting used to Pep and the system and the league, they're looking really, really good. So,
I'll tell you a little mention. He was on my thought for underappreciated. Nico Gonzalez, mate, who's played a number of games now.
Doing steady in there.
Does a good, steady little job for him. And let's remember, with Rodri to come back, John Stones to come back, there's still, quality in around. And Pep also looks like there's a bit of fight. He's got the fire back, mate. It looks like he's started to get going a little bit. But another team who've got going, and, John Champion today asked me at the start of the day, are Villa in the title race? And I said, absolutely in the title race. Third, 1 point behind City and 3 behind Arsenal. You've got to say that they are. Will they win it? I don't think so. No. Maybe the depth of squad and maybe a little bit in terms of the way they play. I'm not sure if it's going to be good enough to see them all the way through. But a 2-1 home win against Manchester United. 2 more goals from a very special player, Morgan Rogers, who's turning into one of the stars of the league, mate, with the finishes. Cunha gets a nice finish for Manchester United, made it 1-1 at the break. Interesting game, mate. It didn't play out as I thought, to be honest. I thought Villa would have a little bit more possession and control. Thought United squeezed them quite well and disrupted their rhythm. Bruno Fernandes coming off, Rob, is a bit of a loss for Manchester United. Well, however you think of him, there's no doubt he's influential in that team. Let's start with Villa. Great win, great scenes at the end. Unai Emery, you couldn't love that guy anymore in terms of his love for football and what he's doing. Can they continue this, Rob? They've beaten Man City and they've beaten Arsenal this season. They play Chelsea and Arsenal in the next 2 games. If we're getting into the end of January and they're still up there, have we got to talk in a different way? They could go. We know that the squad. I don't know in terms of PSL, whatever the situation is now, but they could go to the transfer market in January and bolster a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, big game's coming up, isn't it? And they can't do any more. What have they? I think it's 11 wins in the last 12 Premier League. Yeah. Absolutely brilliant. The form team of the league right now. Tight games, winning tight games, and today really, Rob, was pretty even. It was an even game of football. There was one individual that absolutely was a difference. Yeah. One individual. Otherwise, and maybe we'll get onto United a little bit, Rob. I thought this was a good. I thought United played well. Yeah. As opposed to the last game, where the wide open last game was astonishing to me how that was allowed to happen. But anyway, they played well. But there's one person, Rob, and let me start, right? So I'm gonna pull this player out for my underappreciated. Now let me sell it to you a little bit because it's Morgan Rogers. Now I know that he's celebrated and I know that he is appreciated, right? Certainly Aston Villa, maybe within our two Robbies world, because we've talked about him a lot.
Yeah.
But and I accept that and I appreciate that he is appreciated. But I'm going to another level, Rob. I'm going to another level. That this underappreciation on a world stage. When we're looking at a player that right now I feel like I'd rather have in my team than Phil Foden of Man City, then I think there's an underappreciatedness of just how good he is. You just said he's like in the Premier League right now, he's one of the star players.
Yeah.
I think in terms of attacking midfield players, we talked about Phil Foden. I went crazy about Phil Foden last week.
Yeah.
And you said what about Morgan Rogers? You're absolutely right. But even in European football and world football, there isn't many guys that are 6'2" that can play as a number 10, that can play on either flank rolling inside, that gets back and does his defensive work, has a great mentality, a great physicality. I think he leads the league in terms of carries and breaking the lines with dribbles. And on his own scored 2 spectacular goals to win the game. So yes, he's appreciated on the local level, but I'm talking about, really, we should be talking about one of the best midfield players in the world right now. And I think he's absolutely should be starting for England in the World Cup.
Yeah.
Jude Bellingham is a player that others might say, and maybe we don't watch as much as Jude Bellingham as Morgan Rogers.
Yeah.
But right now, I'd rather have this attacking midfield player that's got a brilliant mentality and attitude amongst any others for the world stage. So that's my case, Robbie Earle. I know he's kind of well-liked, respected, but I think, listen, we're talking one of the best midfield players on the planet, and that's why I'd say he's underappreciated.
Big shout from Robbie Mustoe. I'm wondering if it's because he used to play for Middlesbrough. If there's
No, it's nothing to do with Middlesbrough.
Any
Nothing
connection there. But you're right, and I'd almost chuck in next to him his manager, mate, because I think his manager makes a huge difference. I think if he's playing with different managers, we don't see all that we're seeing now. He's got the right kind of coach, manager who's developing. And we spoke to him briefly after the game. He did a lovely interview. He's a very smart, intelligent young man. And he talked about how the manager sets him goals and he looks at the game and he wants to get better and looking forward to a World Cup stage and but knowing he's got to focus on Aston Villa as well. So it's a good shout. He's gone up to the next level and that's not easy to do in the Premier League because there's a lot of good players around, mate, and there's a lot of good teams.
I just don't know whether our American viewers and listeners and stuff like. Rogers, I know him.
He's not seen as a star, is he?
He's not seen as a star in the league, and I think we're getting to the point now where he's right up there with one of the best footballers in the Premier League. And I just wanted to give him another mention.
It's a good shout. It's a good mention. Let's quickly talk about Man United because you said, as we both thought, I thought it was a decent performance. I think if Cunha gets the header, Rob, that he should score 6 yards out, they get a point. We sort of say it looked okay. I thought Martinez, who came in for Bruno, I thought did a decent job in midfield. Might be something to think about. There was one thing I will say, Rob, and it was a day maybe when we would have freed Kobbie Mainoo if he's fit. That Kobbie Mainoo picked up an injury and went to the doctors, and there was some kind of story around that, which is all a bit intriguing as to if Bruno is out for a little while, you'd love to see Kobbie Mainoo make the most of this situation and be in the team, but again, he can't seem to keep himself fit as well.
No. Yeah, that's right. I mean, he probably would have played because he said that he's either Bruno or Kobbie Mainoo. I still would worry about Mainoo in midfield with the way that they play and how open they are. But they were better today. Yeah. The 4-4, the Bournemouth game was crazy to me. It was crazy. We didn't talk about it, Rob, I don't think, because it was a Monday game.
Monday game, yeah.
That openness and how Bruno plays, and he's a brilliant player, how he plays. It takes, because I saw the result, Rob, right? 4-4, I'm like, I got to watch it. I'm going to study this game. And on studying the game, Bruno Fernandes is a brilliant player. He literally goes wherever he wants to go. Yeah. He literally goes as one of those 2 pivot players in midfield.
But he's a forward player, Rob, and his instinct takes him in there.
I know. Well, there's consequence to that. Yeah. And he creates the score. He does. But the consequence is, and that's when you get your 4-4s. This was different, a stronger shape, a better shape, good possession, by the way. There was a lot of, I feel like I'm more encouraged United after this game than the 4-4, even though they lost this game. So there was one individual that was a difference today. Nothing else is much different, Robbie Earle. And that's got to be decent for United when you look where Villa are and the record they're on. And Man United went to Villa Park with that form and confidence they have and looked the better team for large periods, apart from Morgan Rogers' spectacular goal. So, I didn't mind it. I didn't mind it for Man United. Good football, good possession, good territory. They didn't have the special player that Rodgers was today.
Yeah. The Bruno injury is a bit of a problem,
it's a concern.
and that's a concern if he's out for anything like 3-4 weeks with a muscle injury. We'll have to wait and see what the medics say. Okay, mate, we're going to quickly get through a few more games. Newcastle 2, Chelsea 2. Newcastle 2-0 up, Baltimore. Feeling a lot better about things after the own goal last week in the derby. Scores after 4 minutes, scores after 20 minutes. Some poor defending from Chelsea, who really just didn't turn up in the first half, mate. And I have to say, credit to Enzo Maresca, because he obviously went in at half-time, got amongst them, got them sorted out. It was one of those, Rob, where we had great shots of probably 5 minutes before the end of half-time. He was sat in his seat and he had his team out. So he obviously said what he had to say. And the free kick from Reece James is a beauty that gets them back into it. And then they get the equaliser through João Pedro, a bit of a mistake from Malik Chow. But disappointment, a bit more disappointment for Newcastle, Rob, 2-0 up and then to let that go? Or is it more credit to Chelsea in the way they came back?
Well, gosh, there's a lot, as there always is on these games. Just on the goal, by the way, João Pedro, that's a great goal.
Yeah, brilliant goal.
I don't know if... I mean, Malik Chow, right, is not expecting João Pedro to head the ball inside and quickly check to run inside. I thought it was a really... So I don't know whether it was a mistake from Chow. I just think he got done. He got done by a clever bit of...
He lost his foot in a little bit. But yeah, it's a brilliant finish. And it's a great ball from Robert Sanchez to set it up.
Yeah, let me summarise this. Newcastle United, first half, brilliant, full court press, dominant, didn't allow Chelsea any sort of time on the ball, did their job. They get the goals from a guy that's looking like a poacher, Rob. These are two poachers' goals. Yeah. Nick Valdemar, so well done him, and he's looking the part, which is good. But then they fell away, Rob. They tired. It's the same thing for them. Their aggressive physical style is so effective. It's so good, particularly at St. James's Park. Teams struggle to cope with it, but they tire. They had a League Cup game on Wednesday. Again, many of the players played because they don't rotate as much as other teams do, and they just got a little bit tired. From Chelsea's point of view, Rob, right? And I know we can credit the manager for the half-time words, but the first half is unacceptable. We create them so much credit, Rob, with the Arsenal game where they're down a man, right? It was Arsenal, Spurs, Arsenal. It was the Arsenal game.
Arsenal with Caicedo,
And afterwards, the physicality and the aggression and the desire and the passion. Well, they got to show up and start like that, particularly at St James's Park, where you're going to see that. I'm disappointed, and I accept, and I knew it'd be different second half, and he did a good job to change it around. But that's. I don't know. The team
isn't this part of the learning, though, mate? Isn't this why they're not ready?
How long are we waiting there? Isn't there enough experiences, games that they should have learned and they should have expected at St James's Park? I was so disappointed that they couldn't adjust themselves first half.
But I kind of feel like that's the bit that's holding back, and whether that's having a bit more experience around them, having a few voices who can make sure they're at it. I'm sure Enzo Maresca has set them up right. They're focused. It's St. James's Park, there's 50,000 people, it's just before Christmas, there's going to be an atmosphere. You've got to go on there and let your football and
did he get them in the right mental state?
That's a bit I don't know. But what I would say, I think I have to give him credit for getting them in there from the second half, and we saw a change. And to be honest, they looked the more likely team to go and win it if there was a winner. So I hear your point, and I think it's a good point, but I think it's part of why Chelsea are not ready to win a title and are not quite in the right place to be an Arsenal, a Liverpool, a Manchester City in that way. But you're right. In the next year or so, this team's got to move on from we're young, we're inexperienced. You've got enough. These 100 games under your belt now.
They've won trophies. They should know what it takes in big games. They've gone through those in the past. So, that's kind of the main line for Chelsea, Rob, isn't it? That they're at their best, they're really, really good, but sometimes you don't really know what you're going to get when a game kicks off.
Okay, let's fire through some other results very quickly. We're going to go Leeds 4, Crystal Palace 1. Leeds United and Daniel Farke story continues to grow in the right way. Brilliant scenes at Ellen Road after the game. Those Yorkshire fans will be enjoying their Christmas, mate, because they've seen the goals. They've seen Dominic Calvert-Lewin looking, back in form with good service. And I'm straight away going to go to my underappreciated performer of the week, mate. And it's a young man called Ethan Ampadu, who was at Chelsea not too long. I think signed for about $10 million. Welsh international. He's nearly 70 full international caps. He's a captain of the football club. He can play centre-back. He's been playing in a holding midfield with one or two either side of him. Yeah. Scored a goal this weekend, Rob. And he's one of those players, every time I see Leeds, I see the same level of performance for Ampadu. I see others around him playing some better on the odd days, many worse, not putting in the effort, not putting... This guy delivers the same thing week in, week out. And if you've got 11 Ethan Ampadus, you will stay in the Premier League. And I don't think he gets enough credit. And I don't think, with the back three at times, he's a guy sometimes who drops in. He's a guy who fits holes. He's a guy who, gets a goal, hasn't it? Definitely got an influence amongst the group. And I just think for a young player who I think started in Exeter's academy, goes to Chelsea, I think he only played one game for Chelsea, he's been around a little bit on loan, feels like he's got his place, he's got his club, and he's such an important part of what Daniel Farke is going to do if they stay in the league.
What's great about that, Rob, is that a real good friend of mine is a huge Leeds fan. And I talked about Ampadu with him a little bit because it's the position that I used to play a little bit. And he said, I'm not sure whether he's going to be good enough with his feet at the intensity, the highest speed of the Premier League. Yeah. And I think you make a great point. I think he's been pretty immaculate. I think he's been immaculate. So, he does sit in there and he keeps things mostly simple, but he sometimes has a little foray forward. As you said, he's a captain. I like it. I like it. And Leeds United is quite the story. I tipped them to get relegated. I said to the same guy, I said, you're only, it sounds harsh, but only your main hope is Dominic Calvert-Lewin. Because I like what you've done in the market. Some attacking players have come into the club. Okafor, I think, is a threat. I like the midfield because I see physicality. Anton Stack in the midfield there. And Altanako is a really good technical player. I think defensively, a little bit concerned with Pascal Strout back there that we saw before in the Premier League before. Dominic Calvert-Lewin. When teams get relegated, they often, almost always struggle to have a consistent goal scorer up there. Not always. We saw Liam Delap do good work with Ipswich. But if Calvert-Lewin can stay fit, he's a scorer. He's a Premier League scorer. And he's making a difference right now. And it's their main hope of staying in the division. And right now, wow. Once you get these fans going at Ellen Road and those songs come on and their anthem and stuff, it's a difficult place to go. So it's a fascinating watch right now. There's West Ham United and Nottingham Forest that are not enjoying what Leeds United are doing. And I'm really pleased with Daniel Farke because
5-point gap now.
He seems a great guy. That's brilliant going into Christmas. Brilliant.
Great scenes. Yeah. Okay, moving swiftly on. Bournemouth 1, Burnley 1. Semenyo with back-to-back goals having scored in the 4-4 at Old Trafford. Amanda Broja coming on as a sub and getting a late equaliser for Burnley, but stopped the 7-game run from Burnley's point of view. Wolves 0, Brentford 2. Another bad day for Wolves, Rob. The fans leaving after 1-0. Keane Lewis Potter with a couple of goals, and Wolves missed a penalty with Strand Larson in that one. And I don't know if you saw or heard the Matt Doherty interview after the Wolves game. If you get a chance, listen to it. Absolutely brutally honest about the state of the club and the state of the players and the state of the dressing room. It's one of those refreshing interviews. If you get a chance, it's definitely worth listening, mate. And the other game was Brighton 0, Sunderland 0, hard-fought 0-0 down at the Amex. Okay, mate, we're going to move things on. That's Fulham. We've got Fulham, Nottingham Forest. That's tomorrow, 3 p.m. on the USA Network. Steve Warnock, our friend, and who's with us all weekend, and Danny Higginbottom, I think, with Cora on the show tomorrow. So 3 p.m. Eastern Time on the USA Network, Fulham versus Nottingham Forest. And we're just going to have a quick preview, looking for games after in that Boxing Day window, Rob. Chelsea hosting Aston Villa. So that's 4th versus 3rd. 6-point gap, 7-point gap between the two teams at the moment. Chelsea at home, maybe different kettle of fish to what we saw certainly in the first half at Newcastle. Is this a kind of game they can go and dominate Villa in those central areas of the pitch, which is going to be key, you would think, to the game? How, Chelsea like to roll in those fullbacks, how, Unai Emery likes to have his midfield players packed in that area.
Yeah, love it. I love this game, love the thought of it. I think I know how it's going to go in terms of the flow. Chelsea won the ball and will throw the midfield, and Aston Villa on you go. They did it today at home against Man United. They don't mind about the high press situation, which takes the energy and stuff that we see with Newcastle. They're absolutely fine in their own skin to sit back behind the ball. So that'll be the flow. Morgan Rogers and Herbert plays up front for Aston Villa with Watkins. or Malin, they're going to be playing on the counter, and it's going to be fascinating. And do Chelsea, as the words are now, the rest defence, so how they set up defensively when they have the ball, because Villa are going to be very quick to counter-attack. That's going to be the key to the game. You said before, Rob, about Chelsea's back line.
Yeah.
I was a big fan, or am a big fan of Wesley Fofana. Don't think he's playing well. Didn't play well the other day. Got caught on the ball. So that's going to be a great matchup. And I think the pressure on Enzo Maresca, Rob, about all these questions about what he said, and then Man City talking about Pep not staying, and Enzo Maresca is the first on the list, or is very high on the list to replace him at Man City. Yeah. It's all a little convoluted, and I hope it all dies down. And the pressure on Maresca was elevated a little bit. But it's a great game, and I it's two teams that are young and they got star players. And let's see who comes out on top. It's a good indicator.
About star players, not least Cole Palmer, Morgan Rogers, both came from Manchester City Academy. Yeah. Apparently, the celebration, the cold, was Morgan Rogers originally, and Cole Palmer apparently nicked it. So which one will be celebrating on there? So, plenty to look forward to. A great game, two technical teams sitting at the top end of the table. All right, mate, that winds it up for this weekend. The last instalment before Christmas as Arsenal remain top with Manchester City and, we'd have to say, Aston Villa lurking in the shadows now. I would say thank you to the trophy ambassadors for letting us get that close to the Premier League trophy. What a great feeling it is to be sitting so close to that. We'll be back next Sunday, that's December the 28th, to recap the Boxing Day fixtures of Matchweek 18. Hope everybody has a happy holidays and Santa brings you everything you want. But for now, I'm Earle. He's Mustoe, together with two Robbies. Thanks for watching and listening. Be safe, stay healthy. It's a good night from me.
And it's good night from him. Good night.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host of NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock.